Hello everybody, welcome to Midwest Imagery. So today I thought what I would do is show you some of the default settings on my camera where the buttons and controls are to change those, and tell you which of those settings I change on my own cameras. When our cameras come from the factory, they have several default settings designed just for you to pick it right up out of the box and start making pictures with it, because it's a sophisticated point and shoot at that point. And we don't want it to be a sophisticated point and shoot camera. We want it to be a hopped up picture making machine, and that's what we're going to turn it into. But again, the camera doesn't know what you want to make a picture of. The camera doesn't know what kind of depth of field you want to use. The camera doesn't know how fast you want your shutter speed or how slow you want your shutter speed. So we're going to take a look at some of these settings, change a few of them, and then let the camera know that we're going to be calling the shots from here on out. And I'll start with our image quality. Your camera most likely came from the factory set to default to capture JPEGs. And JPEGs are just fine when we're beginning to learn how to do photography. It's just fine. Just make sure that your JPEG setting is set to the largest file size that can accommodate, which is usually called large or fine. Look in your manual to see where you make some of these changes. Mode dial on your camera will be set to program, and we're going to change that one though. We're going to change that one to manual, and we're going to do that right now. So we change our mode from program to manual because we're going to learn how to make photos in manual mode. Now, your camera will have a dial on the top of it. Some of your cameras might have buttons instead of a dial, but if your camera has a dial, then you're changing that from where it says with a P, and you're just spinning it till it says M right by the indicator mark on your camera's body. We want it to be on M for manual. The next setting that we're looking at is our metering systems. On my camera it's set to what's called matrix, and matrix is just a Nikon term that means that the meter is analyzing all the light that it sees in the scene through the viewfinder. And matrix works pretty good, so we're going to leave it right there. White balance is the next setting. From the factory it was set at auto, and that does a pretty good job too, so we're going to leave that right where it's at. We go on to the fifth setting, which is our ISO control. From the factory it's going to be set with auto ISO turned on. We don't want auto ISO turned on, so however you have to find where it's at on your camera, whether it's spending quality time with your manual, looking it up on the interweb, you want to turn that off so that we are telling the camera what ISO we want to use for any particular shot that we're making. So turn that auto ISO off, and if you have a mode dial on top of your camera, then these buttons that you'll see in a few minutes will be somewhere else on the back of your camera. So give me a minute to set up and I'll be right back. Okay, here we are looking at the top of my camera's body. I have buttons instead of a dial. And if you have a dial on your camera, that will be your mode dial. All these other buttons will be somewhere else on your cameras. And you'll have to look in your manual to see where those are. They should be pretty evident. We start with the quality of our image. I press that button and I turn my shutter speed dial. Right now we see that I'm in RAW, but if I cycle through this, it gives me all sorts of different kinds of settings that I can choose from. I'm going to leave mine in RAW. The next button I talked about was our mode button on this camera. I'm going to press this button and I'm just going to change my mode with my shutter speed dial. I only have 4 modes on this camera. I have manual, programmed, shutter priority, and aperture priority. I live in manual, so that's where it's going to stay. Now we move over to our white balance. And our white balance again is just the color temperature of light. And there's several settings that we can choose from. And there's where I'm going to keep mine in auto. The other setting that I'm talking about is our metering system. And this one is set to matrix by default. I press this button and I can change my metering system. There I'm in center weighted, which means it's only measuring the light in the center part of my viewfinder. And here I'm in spot meter. And that just tells me that I'm measuring an even smaller part of my viewfinder. I like matrix. It does a great job at the default setting, and that's where it's going to stay. The 5th setting I was talking about was our ISO. And it says ISO right on it, big as can be. And the way that I change that is I simply press this button and spin my shutter speed dial. Again, you want to find out in your manual or on the interweb where your control to turn auto ISO off is. On this camera, there are 2 dials on it. The back one predominantly controls the shutter speed, and the front one predominantly controls the aperture. Until I want to change my ISO auto setting. Then I press this button, and you notice that if I turn my front dial, it says auto. And that's my auto ISO on, and I'm going to turn that back to off. That pretty much wraps up the default settings. We're only changing 2 of them, our mode, and we're turning off our auto ISO. So let me get this taken down, and I'll be right back. Okay, there's a quick tour of the top of my camera. Only 2 of those default settings we're changing. Our mode dial, mode button, whichever the case may be, to manual, and we're turning off our auto ISO. And that's it. That's it for today. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you soon.